The weeks that followed felt different, like the house itself had absorbed the tension between the sisters. The walls seemed to listen, the hallways felt colder, and the home that once echoed with casual footsteps now carried hesitation in every movement. Ava stopped leaving her room door open. She stopped humming in the mornings, and even the sunlight felt dimmer around her. Lila noticed every shift. It was as if jealousy had burned down a bridge and now she was staring at the ashes, realizing she never wanted the fire in the first place. Ava spent her afternoons at a small art studio on the edge of town, a place where old wooden floors creaked and paintbrushes sat in jars like flowers waiting to bloom. She needed space from the house, from the memories, and especially from the sister she once trusted so effortlessly. The studio became her sanctuary, a place where she could breathe without feeling the weight of betrayal pressing on her chest. Meanwhile, Lila wandered through her days with a heaviness she had never felt before. The guilt was no longer sharp, it was dull, sinking deep into her bones, making every step heavier. She replayed her decision over and over in her mind, how she let jealousy twist her thoughts, how she let insecurity overpower love, how she ruined something that mattered deeply to Ava. She tried to convince herself she could fix things by being helpful, by being present, by being softer. But guilt never lets things be simple. Every attempt felt forced, and Ava's carefully guarded distance reminded Lila of the damage she couldn't undo.
Their parents sensed the emotional fracture, but didn't know how to address it. They asked if everything was okay, offered family dinners, suggested outdoor activities, but the tension stayed like a quiet fog that refused to lift. Ava moved with subtle caution, as if she were walking around invisible shards of glass. Leela moved with quiet desperation, wanting to reach out but afraid of doing more harm. Ava's art studio soon prepared for a small community exhibition, an event meant to showcase local talent. She reluctantly agreed to join, not for praise or recognition, but because painting was the only thing that kept her heart steady. Her new piece wasn't bright or happy. It was a quiet landscape, gentle and reflective, filled with muted colors that carried the weight of her emotions: hurt, distance, healing. The audience didn't know the story behind the strokes, but they felt the emotion in them. The night of the exhibition, Ava stood among her fellow artists, each piece lit softly under warm gallery lights. People walked by, admiring her new work, praising its maturity, its depth. But even as compliments floated around her, she felt the familiar emptiness where her sister's encouragement once lived. She didn't miss the jealousy. She missed the bond they used to share, the childhood connection that had slowly unraveled. Leela stayed home that evening, unable to face the studio where she'd once caused so much harm. She imagined the gallery lights, the murmurs of appreciation, the soft glow on Ava's face as she stood beside her work. And she imagined herself nowhere in that picture, left behind by her own choices. As Leela sat alone in her room, she found an old box filled with childhood memories. Inside were drawings she and Ava created together when they were young. Simple crayon sketches of two girls holding hands, smiling under the sun, running through fields, laughing in scribbles of bright color. Back then, jealousy didn't exist. Back then, Leela was just a proud older sister who thought Ava hung the moon. She realized she had spent years building her identity in comparison to Ava instead of building her identity for herself. Every achievement Ava had became a mirror reflecting what Leela thought she couldn't be. But seeing that box of memories, she finally understood the truth. She had loved her sister long before jealousy shaped her insecurities.
The next morning, Ava came home tired but slightly lighter, grateful for the evening's small success. The house felt quiet, too quiet, as she walked down the hallway. She noticed Lila's bedroom door slightly cracked, something that hadn't happened in weeks. Inside, she saw the box of memories open on the floor. Crayon drawings were scattered gently across the carpet, like colorful reminders of who they once were. Ava stood at the doorway, unsure of what to feel. Part of her heart softened, remembering those childhood days when Lila was her safe place, when jealousy hadn't yet carved a wall between them. Lila wasn't in the room, but Ava could sense the remorse hanging in the air. She picked up one of the drawings, a messy, cheerful sketch of two girls wearing capes, pretending to be superheroes. It made her smile, something she hadn't done easily in a long time. For the rest of the day, the sisters moved around the house separately. But something was different. The silence wasn't as heavy, the air not as cold. Lila didn't know that Ava had found the drawings. Ava didn't know that Lila had finally understood her mistake. But the emotional tide was shifting, slowly, quietly. Still, trust is not rebuilt in a day, and love cannot erase wounds without time. Both sisters were walking toward the same point, but they were still on opposite sides of the road. The true test came weeks later, on a humid afternoon when summer storms were building across the horizon. Ava was returning from the art studio when she received a message from the event organizers. Her landscape painting, her healing piece, had been selected for a regional display. It was a huge moment, one that could open real opportunities, one that would have once brought her running to Lila's room with excitement. Instead, she sat alone on the living room couch, staring at the message, unsure whether she should smile or cry. She wanted to share the news, but fear held her back. Fear of being hurt again, fear of Lila's reaction, fear of reopening wounds that were only beginning to heal. Upstairs, Lila overheard the vibrations of Ava's phone, the soft sound of footsteps pacing. She didn't know what had happened, but she sensed something important. She wanted to approach her sister, to ask if she was okay, to show support like she should have all along. But she hesitated, unsure whether she had the right to step into moments she once destroyed. That afternoon, the weather changed quickly. Clouds thickened, winds picked up, and the sky darkened until the whole neighborhood felt wrapped in a sheet of gray tension. Ava stepped out onto the backyard porch to breathe, to think, to wrestle with the emotions stirring inside her. She didn't notice that the storm behind her was not the only one forming. Inside the house, Lila stood frozen halfway down the stairs, battling a storm of thoughts, regret, longing, fear, and hope. She watched Ava through the window, knowing that moments like this, quiet and fragile, were exactly the ones she used to handle so poorly. But this time she wanted to be different. The storm outside finally broke open with heavy rain, loud thunder, and flashes of lightning. The house shook, the trees swayed, and the sisters stood only a few steps apart, separated by a sliding glass door, but separated even more by the emotional distance between them. Ava didn't hear Lila approaching, but she felt something shift in the air, the same way you feel the first drop of rain before looking up. And in that stormy moment, their lives were about to change again.